high school football fans in the North Florida area. It is playoff time in the state of Florida, and this is the Extra Point. I'm Mark Adams, and I'm here with Coach Cofield. Coach, we got lots of matchups to break down. We are in round number 2 of the state playoffs, and some exciting news came out. If you live outside of the Central Florida area, you could just tune in to Valley Sports, and they will carry all 9 state championship games on television and on their streaming platform. So that's a little bit of good news for people who got tired of the whole Spectrum bit. Coach, I know you were frustrated, weren't able to see some of the games. We don't live in Central Florida. We can't get Spectrum. That's just kind of one of the caveats of how big the state is. But I feel like that was pretty good news, being able to watch some of these state championship games on a different network that might be more accessible to us, and especially online. You could just log on to valleysports.com and watch the state championship games, unless you are in Tallahassee, in which case we encourage you to buy a ticket and head on down to the campus of FAMU Bragg Stadium, where all 9 state championship games will be taking place. But I thought that was pretty exciting news.
Yeah, it's been a long time since we've been able to watch the games on television over the whole state, especially here where we live. And without driving down, we have to go to Orlando, and Spectrum is not in this area. I don't know what happened, but Valley Sports, I'm glad. Maybe they both connected. I have no idea, but I'm looking for it. But they would change the TV outlook when the sports come to our hometown, when the state championship, like when I can ride across town and go see the game.
Well, it's going to be a festive atmosphere either way. Definitely looking forward to who's going to make the trip to Tallahassee. We've got a lot of teams here out of the Big Bend, Panhandle, and Panama City Beach area that are still alive in the playoff hunt. And so we're going to go ahead and not waste anyone's time. Let's go ahead and rewind back to the opening round of the state playoffs. And man, what can you say? When you get in the playoffs, it's a totally different environment. It's a different season, different atmosphere. I don't care how many times you face that team before. When you get in the playoffs, it's totally different. And a lot of players will tell you that. But let's go ahead and talk about 4S, the 4S suburban classification. Mosley taking the trip down to Gainesville, and things did not go well. From the moment they stepped off the bus, it seems like Buchholz just dominated a 59-0 win for the Bobcats. And man, Buchholz looks dangerous. They look like one of the favorites to make it to Tallahassee, handling Mosley very soundly, as the Dolphins in their season on a bit of a sour note, but still a great run for the Dolphins. Just did not go well. Things did not go well the way they wanted to in that opening round.
Yeah, Mark. I watched the game online, and it was a total mismatch. I was very surprised. I thought that Mosley would put up a better test than they did. But all in all, successful season. You make the playoffs. You want to win the state, but hey, you made the playoffs. Congratulations to the Mosley Dolphins. Hopefully next year they can do it a little bit better, go a little further. But they ran up against a buzzsaw in Buchholz. And Buchholz is one of the better teams in the state this year. So they did the best they could.
Yeah, I think for Mosley, they'll look to rebuild. They had quite a few seniors in some key positions, and they've got a good mix of underclassmen that I know those guys will be ready and a little bit more experienced next year. It'll be interesting to see how Mosley rebuilds off of a very talented roster this year. So what the rest of the remaining 4S bracket looks like, Buchholz will move on. They'll take on Point Vedra next week. And on the other side of that back bracket is Niceville. They'll be hosting Bartram Trail. So be interesting how 4S turns out as we turn our attention to the 3S classification. So this is where we've got some interesting things going on here, as Lincoln will be hosting Choctaw. And one of the interesting things about Lincoln, their defense has been pretty solid over the past several weeks coming down the stretch to close out the season. This is a Trojan defense that has pitched 5 shutouts on the year, including an opening round win over Matanzas where they won 49-0 in the first round. So them coming into the game against Choctaw, you look at certain things that Lincoln has been able to do, and I just keep seeing defense over and over. This is a team that has not given up more than 22 points on the year. Excuse me, more than 24 points on the year. Their one loss coming at the end of the year at the end of the year to Florida High, where they lost 24-22 in a close ball game. But this is a team throughout the regular season that hasn't given up more than about 16 points. So defense will be the name of the game. And Choctaw and Lincoln have a common opponent in Pace, where Choctaw came out on the losing end of their contest against Pace. Lincoln was victorious on the road at Pace, where they won 21-7. So it looks like the Trojans might have a little bit of being a favorite here coming into this ball game, as they'll be the home team and will be hosting.
Yeah, Mark, Coach Tyson over at Lincoln is a defensive coach. His background is defense. So you expect the Trojans to be a good defensive team. And I expect this always to be a part of the team. Defense and special teams. If you get to talk to Coach Tyson, he can talk all day about defense. As you know, we coached together for a few years, and he has done a great job over there at Lincoln, trying to hold up and continue the tradition of success at Lincoln High School.
Yeah, Choctaw beat Columbia in the previous week, 37-14, pretty convincingly. But the thing that stands out to me is that one common opponent in Pace. Both teams face Pace on the road. Lincoln won pretty convincingly, 21-7, and Choctaw lost pretty handily. They allowed Pace to put up 41 points, and so it's kind of, you don't want to take in too much in the contention because it was early in the season. But either way, you look for measurables where you can measure a team now that they've been able to run through a full season of games, and you try to look for some continuity to be able to gauge the opponents. But Lincoln, just defensively and them hosting the game, they look like the favorites coming into this one, and so it looks like I'm gonna definitely be rocking with the Trojans. I think they've got a little bit of a edge on their side, as they will be the home team. And just looking at some of the stats, looking at how things have stacked up for Lincoln this year, looking at what they've been able to do on offense with Chris Sims at quarterback, running back by committee. And if I'm not mistaken, I think that's Deshaun Washington, who's he's 4 yards shy of eclipsing 1,000 yards on the year. And they've also got a handful of running backs that have all rushed for over 300 yards. So the Trojans are just kind of a hodgepodge of talent right now on both sides of the ball. And they just look, at this point in the year, they look pretty scary.
Yeah, the Trojans started the season off pretty good. Has some new additions to the program, especially with Sims at quarterback, and then you have a what you call a hodgepodge of running backs and different players. I think they added like 7 new players to this team was already good. And what has happened is that the team has started to gel here at the late part of the season. Right when you want them to do that, as a coach, you go through the season. If you make the playoffs, you want your team to be on an upswing, and to get better and better every week.
So Lincoln taking on Choctaw at home, and then definitely want to keep an eye on across the bracket. You got St. Augustine; they'll be taking on Escambia, and that's a pretty historic matchup. Escambia, no stranger to St. Augustine, but St. Augustine, the Jackets, #1 seed in 3S, and they'll be hosting that game. So just something that you want to keep your eye on as we move down to the 2S classification. And Coach, man, we've been waiting on this one. But let's go ahead and look at the opening round. Walton, 60-piece on South Walton, as they won pretty convincingly, 63-35. And that's how you want to open up the playoffs with a very, very resounding victory like that. We had a chance to talk to Coach White out at Walton, and Coach, you had a great opportunity to kind of understand how that program is built.
Yeah, Coach White is a Christian man who has done some great things with the kids. He's turned the program around, did a very good job of getting these kids in the right direction. He talked about it in the interview about he saw that this is maybe the most difficult region in the whole state for 2S, and that he had thought about not even getting in it and maybe moving in another region, but it worked out. The kids are playing hard, and last week it was kind of odd because they played their a rival in South Walton, and when they played South Walton before this, he said that they played during the regular season. It was like a 2-point victory, and he said they played their worst game of the whole season, and South Walton played their best, and they came out on top. And he wasn't, he wasn't sounding cocky or anything, but he wasn't surprised of the outcome. He thought his two kids came to play, and they're looking forward to continue. They have a tough opponent coming up this week with playing Pensacola Catholic. So a team they beat by a couple of points during the regular season also. Look, if Walton gets by this one, the matchup coming up after that is going to be just unbelievable. I think we need to ride over there and go see that game. That's going to be so special.
It's going to be it's going to be unbelievable in the 2S football bracket for the rest of the playoffs. If you look at how this bracket shapes up, there are 11 teams that have won 9 games or more during the regular season. And that says a lot because you're not talking about teams that just won their district. You're not talking about teams that just, got by on beating their local talent. These are teams that have beat everybody across the board. And there's 11 teams that have won 9 games or more. So this classification is loaded from top to bottom. When you see how the caliber of opponents, this is the best of the best. And I think every game here should be treated like a state championship. And just even in the Panhandle and in the Big Bend area, looking at how Region 1 shapes up, you have Walton, who's getting ready for their big matchup against Pensacola Catholic, a team that has improved down the stretch. A lot of this is just really looking at how teams are built, and by the grace of God, everybody's still healthy. So a few teams are battling for what I would call for supremacy, but this is the playoffs. All of that stuff can go out the window. If you saw them in the regular season, you can pretty much throw that out in the garbage because they have had a chance. Your opponents had a chance to study you and coach. You're one of those people. I know you would hate you hate to see those teams again because now you don't want them to get your number. You just don't want to play a team twice.
Well, when you play them the second time, the team that lost makes all the adjustments. The team that won continue what was successful. So coaches going in, they got to maybe come up with some new wrinkles. The team that lost, they're coming back very competitive. They knew it was a close game. They could have won either way. And playing them a second time is tough anyway to win 2 games with the same team, especially when it's so closely matched.
Right. Moving on down the bracket, the Wakulla War Eagles dispatched Gaston County convincingly 46-14, and then Florida High beat up on Mariana 41-17. And coach, man, when everybody wins their opening round games convincingly, that all that's doing is setting up an epic round 2 matchup, and that's what we have with Wakulla and Florida High, 2 teams that would have normally faced off in the regular season. We're getting that matchup now where we're going to get a chance to see how the Seminoles and the War Eagles match up. And this is the one that everybody has been waiting on. Florida High has done absolutely, they put together an amazing season. Their quarterback, Jeremy Johnston, has thrown for over 2,000 yards. And I think he's got 25 touchdowns on the year. And then, of course, at running back, you have You have Mr. Threats and Mr. Danzy combined. They've gone over 1,000 yards on the season. And Florida High has 7 running backs that have notched at least 150 yards or more on the season. So that tells you that they could get the ball to any one of these playmakers, and they have a chance to score or put up numbers on you pretty quickly. When you look at the schedule for Florida High, this is a team, again, very defensively minded, having given up more than 22 points on the year. I think they've only got one bad loss to I think that was Carrollwood Day down in the middle of the season. Then when you go across the board and you look at Wakulla, you see how they've stacked up over the year. This is another really good defensive team. I think Wakulla about the same. They've averaged, their defense has only given up an average of about 20 points on the year, and they've got some pretty pretty big victories on the year. If you look at the schedule, they got the team from California out of the Bay Area that they whipped up on Balboa. Big wins against Childs, Mosley, John Paul, North Florida Christian, and then Swanee. None of those teams are slouches. And when you look at how they handled Gaston County last week, that really tells you what kind of team Wakulla really is. Stats wise, we all know everything goes through the quarterback, Hayden Cleese. This kid he's on the verge of eclipsing 3,000 yards passing on the year. And when you got a quarterback that really can sling it like that, he's on the verge of eclipsing 3,500 yards passing on the year. He already broke 3,000 a couple of weeks ago. But when you've got somebody that can move the ball like that, and you got a field general, you definitely have a situation where this is going to be an epic ball game, and I'm really looking forward to this one.
Mark, that Wakulla and Florida High is a great matchup. You got 2 of the best teams in this area. Wakulla, great quarterback play. Florida High, great quarterback play. 2 great defenses. Something's got to give on Friday, and these 2 teams. Oh man, I don't know what you're doing Friday, Marco. You got to split up.
My eyes are gonna be glued to that game. This is a miniature state championship. I don't care what you want to call it. This is going to have that same vibe, that same feel. I know JD Jones Stadium is going to be packed. There will be standing room only. You might want to catch a spot at the fence right now. There's just so much that kind of goes into the atmosphere of a big game like this, and I'm pretty sure if you ride down to Crawfordville, you might want to start lining up right now, to kind of get in line, because it will be jam packed on Highway 98.
Man, Mark, I can imagine if you ever went to Wakulla to the game, you know that you're gonna have to get there real early. You're gonna have to find, because I'm assuming there won't be a park in the house. They'll be parking outside the road. It's gonna be exciting. Florida High coming down. Nobody's gonna be down. Man, 2 of the best coaches in this area too, facing off in a game with in the past. Florida High was in a lower class, and Wakulla had been as high as 6A, 5A, and now you're talking about a team like Florida High who has really started dominating this area. Only a couple of teams they beat. Look how they beat the last week of the season, beating up on Lincoln High School. You can't help but get excited, and somebody's gonna be disappointed. Somebody's gonna be real disappointed this year.
Yeah, there's so many storylines in this game. You got 2 of the premier teams in the state. Florida High coming off of 2 state runner-up appearances. Wakulla, no stranger to deep playoff runs, and 2 of the longest tenured coaches in the area, in the Big Bend, with Coach Hickman and Coach Cleese, both right around 20 seasons with their respective teams. And this is just what you want to see. And my eyes will be glued to that, to the screen watching that game. I'm definitely interested to see who's got the edge. It will be a chess match between the head coaches. And I think I wouldn't be surprised if this is a lower scoring game. And I think the game will definitely be won on the offensive line. I think the trenches will kind of control this game, and whoever has the edge in terms of ball control, I think will be able to kind of take this one. But man, it is tough to win down at JD Jones Stadium. Played there back in the day. and there's just a mystique about that place. It's very hard to win there.
Well, Mark, I disagree with what's going to cause the game. I think the game, what's going to make this game, whoever make the least amount of mistakes. In games where two teams are evenly matched, mistakes cost one team or the other. And I think what we'll see on Friday night is a hard-nosed battle, and somebody got to blame.
Yep. So let's go ahead and move to the 1S classifications. I hope everybody got plenty of rest last week because it's time to strap it up this week. North Florida Christian taking on Monroe at home, and it'll be interesting to see what the new look Eagles look like. They lost quite a few players to transfers, and you know we'll have to see how Pickles rallies his offense with the pieces he has left. And I know Coach Hill definitely will be plugging in some new guys into some of the offensive and defensive schemes. I still like NFC's chances to make it to Bragg Stadium for the state championship game, but they'll be taking on Monroe in the first round, or excuse me, in the opening round of the Class 1S playoffs. And then on the other side of the bracket, you have St. John Paul II. They'll be taking on McClay. And I'll have my eyes on this game, Coach. I think McClay is a much improved team coming down the stretch, and they'll have their hands full with St. John Paul II, who also has plenty of weapons across the field. Be interesting how Tremaine Hughes can create some opportunities in space. He's definitely one of the more dangerous quarterbacks in the area. And you know, when you look at how both teams are built, they're trying to steal one to see if they can get into the second round. But this is going to be an interesting matchup, and I definitely like what I'm seeing here on the other side of the bracket.
Well, Mark, I think that this game is probably more evenly matched than most would expect. We had a chance to see McClay up close, and we saw a team that got better and better and better as the season went on. John Paul did the exact same thing. They still had a little rough start, but at the end of the season, they were a more impressive team. So I think it's a coin toss on either one of these teams winning this game.
So let's go ahead and round out the first round of the playoffs. Bozeman and Holmes County had first round buys in the one rural classification. Bluntstown and Port St. Joe also had a bye where they were able to get a lot of rest, and so was Madison County on the opposite side of the bracket, coming out of the south side of the bracket. So that sets up some big matchups coming into this week. But Chipley was a big winner over Vernon in round one, 42-0, as they blanked the Yellow Jackets and the Tigers. That sets up a huge rematch against Holmes County. Sneeze was also a big winner over Cottondale, 46-22, and hopefully Sneeze has found their mojo again, because they'll need it this week as they're going up against the number one seeded Bluntstown Tigers. And then probably one of our most interesting teams on the year, Osceola Christian, the Warriors, in some unfamiliar territory as they're in the second round of the playoffs, and they'll be taking on Port St. Joe on the road. So we'll see what the Warriors can do, but man, big time matchups all across the board, as Madison County will also be taking on Lafayette in the second round. And Coach, I'm sorry, I really like what I'm seeing. I really want to check in on Osceola and Port St. Joe, Bluntstown and Sneeze, but my eyes are going to be glued to that Holmes County and Chipley matchup. It's a huge rematch from in the regular season. These two teams know each other like the backs of their hands, and I can't imagine that Holmes County out in Bonifay that stadium won't be packed.
Man, I can't imagine. If we go into that game, Mark, we have to leave now. I can imagine everybody getting ready. It's exciting because we got two small towns facing off each other, right next to each other. Everybody probably know each other, probably relatives playing against relatives. The kind of game you really love to be at. It's an exciting place. I went a couple of times in that area to games, and it was wild. So I'm looking forward to a tremendous show out because Holmes and Chipley played early in the season, and it came down to the wire.
It did. Chipley ended up.
It's tough.
Yeah, Holmes County ended up coming out on top with a 10-point victory, but you can throw the records out the window. This is just going to be good old-fashioned rivalry game. And just this is what you want out of this is Friday Night Light football right here. When you take a look at how these two teams are built with Holmes County, they do a lot out of they do a lot out of the running back position. They've been able to kind of move the ball fairly well. This is a very well-rounded team. The highest point total that they've given up all season is to Bozeman and to Holmes County. In fact, they gave up more points to Holmes County in the loss than they did to Bozeman, and that was a 1-point loss. So I think you can throw the records out in this one. This is just going to be good old-fashioned, hard-nosed football, and I expect another close ball game.
Yeah, Mark, I that's what I expect. These guys going to be fighting. It's going to be tough. It's going to be and I think all these games will be won in the trenches. Guys going at it hard, local, close, family, tough football.
So the one rule classification looks like this: Madison County taking on Lafayette, Bluntstown taking on Sneeze, Port St. Joe hosting Austilla Christian, and then Bozeman taking on Northview in that epic matchup with Holmes County, as they will play host to the Chipley Tigers, which is really right down the road across the bracket. Williston will be hosting Pahokee, Hawthorne taking on Newberry, and then Fort White taking on Union County. So that is your playoff picture for round number 2. And Coach, we'll be here for all of it, just kind of keeping our eyes glued to a bunch of different games going on across North Florida. But glad everyone is locked in here to the Extra Point. And until next week, we got some Turkey Day football coming up for round number 3 in the state of Florida. We want everybody to catch one of their local games and keep it locked right here to the Extra Point. For 4 Quarters Online, I'm Mark Adams, and this is my tag team partner, Coach Cofield. We'll catch everybody in round number 3.